Well, I think that's a big question. I think, if anything, my view of masculinity has evolved, and approaching this character, he really is, in some ways, an avatar of a certain kind of masculinity. You know, I think a lot of men are disconnected from their inner lives and have a hard time admitting their emotions, even labeling what they're feeling. And I think that then can come out in aggressive, even violent ways. If you're not processing the grief you're feeling, if you're not processing your sadness or your fear, or labeling it. So that was really how I approached playing Steve. He's a guy who's completely cut off from his inner life, from his emotions. He's very scared of what he is, and he kind of doesn't like himself. He doesn't like how he really feels, so he really pushes it down. So for me, as my feelings on, masculinity have evolved, or at least the type of masculinity that I think is harmful to the person and to society as a whole, it actually allowed me to approach this character in a very specific way, to really know what his flaw is.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think that Nick Denoya is supremely confident, perhaps overly confident. And that's sort of what, that's what allows him to kind of drive through like a hurricane, which he tends to do. But I think, interestingly, like I think that, Kumail was talking about Steve being sort of hating himself. I think Nick loves himself, but also has an inner life that, that he's hiding from everybody. So, he does have this supreme confidence, or presents with this supreme confidence. And I think he does truly have that to a certain extent, because he believes in his vision and his sort of creative genius. And I do think he was a creative genius. Yeah, and I think, someone like, Dan's character is incredibly insecure. And, I think it's sort of like being in a jungle, where because I think that Nick is insecure as well, but he presents in this super confident way. And everybody, if they're confident or not, has insecurities and has, vulnerabilities and stuff. So you kind of buy the facade of people who are super confident. It's a facade, there can be great confidence underneath it, but there's always vulnerability. There's always, pain or some sort of trauma, or some, there's an inner life that is a child, or, that's not necessarily supremely confident. But I think it's a very attractive and also can be a very threatening quality. And Nick, he projects a lot of that.
And I think that's exactly why Nick and Steve sort of have issues too, because just Steve seeing Nick be so comfortable in his skin, at least seemingly so comfortable in his skin, so in touch with his body, I think it's a little infuriating to Steve, because he really isn't, he's really disconnected from his body. You can see he's very stiff, whereas Nick is very sort of fluid and comfortable with movement. So not just Dan, I think it's eventually also the thing that really upsets Steve, because Nick is everything he can never be in this show.
Yeah.
Great. I love that. Yeah, he's very stiff. He's very disconnected from himself. And, it's still like a journey for me, being connected with my body. So it's sort of, I understood what it felt like to not like the vessel you're in, it's a feeling I can really, really relate to. So for a lot of, when you're playing a character, it's really, if you can find a physical trait that really, really goes with an inner trait, that's sort of gold, And that's what was exciting to find about Steve, is that he's very stiff because he's not comfortable with himself. He doesn't like himself. And so the way he sort of moved, sort of like RoboCop a little bit. That's kind of how, I rewatched RoboCop to be like, how does RoboCop move? I feel like this guy moves a little bit like RoboCop. Not as cool. But yeah, I started getting this knot right under my right shoulder blade here, and it got tighter and tighter, and it would just hurt all the way up to here. certainly in specific scenes, it would hurt more and more. And I was like, I kind of felt weirdly. I was like, well, that's where Steve lives. I can't get rid of this knot until I rap.
Wow. I think it's like an unexpected true crime story on steroids. That, it's clothed in this world of the Chippendales, but there's this, boiling kind of story of complex characters and dynamics, relationship dynamics and themes, big themes about, ambition and greed and racism and, a lot of the sort of big themes that are tied up in our society that are sort of intersecting in this kind of very intense world that you don't expect. But housed in this kind of like fun, campy world of Chippendales.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's great about it, is that it's about all these big, heady, heavy, dark things, but it's also just a really, really fun show.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, obviously bad stuff happened, but also good stuff happened. And I see the story as ultimately kind of a tragedy about these two men who could never figure out a way to work together, So, but I do think just if you go to just Wikipedia and read the events, it's really, really entertaining. It's also kind of a cautionary tale, that ties into these bigger things that Murray was talking about. So it is entertainment, and I think it's okay to be entertained by it, but I also think that there are lessons in it. But it's not a medicine show by any means, That's what I love about it.
I think, that's one of the things that I found really exciting about, joining this project and this story, is that it's this amazing concoction, like this incredible balance of fun and frivolity and kind of wild excess and dancing and stripping and like, screaming women and screaming men and like, but it's also got these like deep themes and a sort of a depth in character and relationships that is a great balance to the sort of the fun aspects of the show. But it's like, it's a wonderfully kind of wild ride that incorporates both, and I think in a very balanced way that allows you to like roll with it, enjoy it, and laugh at it and be kind of titillated by it, and also be kind of deeply affected by it,